Thing went nuclear on me. Thought I might make it the 100 and so miles home, but nope, got about halfway. This bad boy just locked up tight. Well, I got it home finally. My buddy Al helped me here. Thing went nuclear on me. Thought I might make it the 100 and so miles home, but nope, got about halfway. This bad boy just locked up tight. Coasted it into a parking ride, and the city worker helped me push it the rest of the way in. And so, well, good thing I don't need the engine. But I bet it starts up and I drive it right off the trailer. But see, I can't get the doors open. Check it out. Right here. Well, you see the trailer has fenders. Yeah, look at that. We had a storm. Oh, we will rebuild. The doors run into the fenders. So we have to, it's sitting in neutral. And we're going to have to coast it backwards till we can get the doors open, because the windows don't open. So I couldn't open the windows. The body on this thing is shot. You know, I couldn't open the windows. The fan motor and the air conditioner doesn't work. So it was a sauna in there. But anyway, we're going to roll it backwards so we can get the doors open, and then I'll start it up and drive it the rest of the way, because I think it'll start now that it's cooled off. I think it just overheated. Anyway, let's find out. I'm going to have my other friend Dorian run the camera while I do this.
All right.
There you go, Dorian.
Okay.
Back up and get it. Get it enough to get the doors open. I'll get in and start it up. We're going to have to give it a push. There we go. There we go. A little more, a little more. Okay, I can get in it now.
All right.
All you. Well, now that Al and Dorian have helped me get this car home and in place, let's open the hood on it here and see what we can salvage. Okay, look at that. The hatch rams work really good. They hold that hood up nicely. I might be able to use those. The engine, however, being a 4.6 liter overhead cam modular engine, there is nothing I can use. This shares pretty much nothing parts wise with a 306. Unless you had the fuel injection model, the injectors would probably fit. They might not be the right size. That's these things here. Those are the injectors. Let's see. I'm probably going to use the master cylinder and booster. It's very compact in size because with this short hood design that they have on this car. It needed to be. The radiator looks too big for my use. Battery I could probably use. Might be able to use some of these tanks. Maybe a fuse block. A couple other items like that. Just depends. And I'm eventually, I may save some, I don't know. You really got to kind of mull these things over, because you never know what you can use and what you'll need. Now, one thing that Ford does that just really annoys me, it's something that Chevrolet did not do. In fact, Chevrolet did it better, I guess is the way to say it. And that's hard for me to admit because I am a Ford fan. But Ford did something and continues to do something that I think is really dumb. Their engines don't fit each other's bell housings. They have different class engines, and they'll put the same exact transmission behind the different kinds of engines, but you can't take the transmission from one and put it on the other because the bell housing is different. Like, this is the 4.6 liter overhead cam modular engine. Now, from what I've read on the internet, it has its own unique bell housing pattern, which really stinks, because if it was the same as the Windsor blocks, the 302, the 300, the 351, the 289, then I could use the AOD automatic out of here. But it's not, so that's not going to work. So the only thing I'm going to be able to use this AOD transmission for is dimensions. To make sure that later on, when I work on the Speedster and maybe put one of these transmissions in it, then I have room in the transmission tunnel. Otherwise, we're just looking at something I have to sell. So, but that should recoup some of my cost by selling the engine and selling the transmission. I might come pretty close to just paying for the whole purchase. We'll see. Now, these wheels and tires, I'm going to use them as rollers for when I'm working on it, because, I mean, look at this. This wheel here, look how bad that thing was. Just curbed something fierce. But that's nothing compared to the back one. Just look at that. Somebody hit a curb really hard, or a rock or something, and bent the rim. I'm surprised that even holds air. But it's going to work as a roller wheel. I'll have these wheels on the car while I roll it around and work on it. But boy, when it comes time to put it on the highway, they're going away. I'm putting something different on there. The parts of the doors that I like and need, I need latches for my doors. I need hinges for my doors. It's got all that and enough. I don't think I'll use the exterior latch. I'll probably use something off of Willys or something like that. But I can make it all work together. The other interior parts, well, there are some leather seats in here. They're a little hit. I don't know that I'm going to use them. They look a little rough, so probably not. Well, let's pop the trunk open. This is how they do it in this car, in the Cougar. I hope that opened. I hope I had enough electricity in there. I did not, so looks like the battery's going dead because it's been here for a few days. I will have to get the key. Okay, now in the trunk, what can I use out of the trunk? Well, I have the spare wheel. It's a Firestone compact spare. That's what Ford used. You know, if this car was really decent, it wouldn't be a bad thing, but that latch, the lock, uses a key that I just don't have. So, if the battery's dead, you can't get in the trunk. But I'm not going to use that lock, obviously. So anyway, I think I can use the hinges. We got hinges back here. We got hatch rams up front. We got roller wheels. Really, there's stuff I can use. Probably the fuel tank and the rear end, of course, the drive shaft. Let's see if I can get underneath this and take a look at the rear end. Okay, here we see the axle underneath there, the rear end. You can see here's the passenger side control arm. Got the differential right there. The driver's side control arm and springs, sway bar, everything. And you see there's one of the 4 bolts right there that holds the rear end in. There's 4 of those, and that whole rear end thing just lowers down. The only other connections are the parking brake, the shock mounts, and the brake line. So other than that, it's not a whole lot. And then here we have the bottom of the trunk. I wonder where the fuel tank is. Oh, look at that. It's up in the middle there. That's huge. Look at the side. I bet it's really thin. Oh, maybe that's the bottom of the car. It could be the fuel tank. No, it's strapped in. It's the fuel tank. I hadn't seen a car with a fuel tank in the middle. Most of them are right here behind the rear axle. But it's a fake dual exhaust. Look at that. You got one single pipe come up and it wires off right here and then goes out each side with mufflers. So it looks like dual exhaust from the back, but not so much. This is fascinating to look underneath this car to see how this works. So we'll pull it out and measure it up and hook it up in the new car, to the frame. But first I'm gonna have to take some measurements, for ground clearance, to where this thing's supposed to sit when it's under proper load, things like that, and then we can set it up right. Now, to identify the rear axle without tearing it apart and getting all dirty and greasy and everything, we can look at the door tag, the VIN number and everything, and decode all this sticker. And it's actually pretty simple on Ford. If you take a look down on the bottom line down there, right there where there's an AX with a 5 under it, that's your axle code. And if you were to look up the number 5 axle code for this year of car, then for an XR7, then you could sort this out pretty well. Now, there's been some confusion about what rear end this actually is, and I got it because I wanted an 8.8 rear end that was also independent. Well, some of these cars had a 7.5 and some had an 8.8, and I've been looking through the forums and stuff and all the different data, and it seems to matter what engine you have. If you have the V8 option, they always put the 8.8 in. Well, I've got the 8-cylinder, as you just saw, and so I have the 8.8 engine. Another thing to look at is that axle code, that number 5. That number 5 means that it is an open differential, and the gear ratio is 3.27 to 1, and that it's an 8.8. So I got exactly what I wanted in this XR7. And it used to be that if you had the XR7 as opposed to just the baseline Cougar, then you got the 8.8. However, at some point, and I'm not really sure when that was, the XR7 was just applied to everything, regardless of the engine, regardless of the transmission, regardless of the rear end. But in my case, I definitely have an 8.8, 327 geared open differential. Now, I'd rather have a limited slip or an L code, which is locker, but really, I don't need it. the car will be much more drivable with an open differential. Because of how light the car is, it'll turn better, it'll track better. It's just a better driving experience unless you're racing. And I'm not going to be racing in this car. It's really not designed as for racing. So I am glad to see this door sticker with this data on it. If you are a Ford data expert and you know how to decode all this stuff, you can tell me. But I'm pretty sure it was made in Ohio, and it's an XR7, and it's a what else? It's a 95. Well, it was built in 95, but it's a 96 model. This was built in September of 95. But regardless, it's got what I needed, so I'm happy about it. But it'd be fun to know more about the VIN number and what all those different letters and numbers mean. It'd be kind of fun. So if you know what it is, and just go ahead and put it in the comments. It'll be an interesting thing to learn, because we're going to tear this thing apart.